Yeah.
Who's to say?
Yeah. Yeah.
I was just reading recently about in the 18th century with the advent of the novel in Europe and how people went just crazy over the idea that you could have an extended narrative. And what a gimmick, what a crazy thing to do. Why would you have an extended narrative?
Wow.
So, you know, things change so rapidly.
Yeah, I know. Usually we are, well, at least we have some comprehensions, not to say fears, when something absolutely new appears. Yeah. Like cinema and TV. Yeah. We all had apprehensions. Yeah.
So now our students are movie makers.
They are.
They make movies. That's what they know.
We will soon learn as well. Yeah. I mean, people of my generation.
Mind.
We will learn how to do this. Yeah. Okay. So how are we uploading the presentation?
We're about halfway there.
Are you kidding me? It has. I mean, you started like 3 minutes ago. Oh no.
There
Okay,
it goes.
now we can see it. Yeah. Good.
So we're there.
Yeah, we can see this. Can you please start the video just to find out whether if there is any sound in the video, so that
no.
We can.
No sound.
No sound. Okay, then. Don't you think that there may be some lagging? Let's try.
Oh, you want me to go through the pages?
Yes, I want you to show us the video and see how it works.
Oh, okay. Ooh, this could be a problem.
No problems. Everything is going to be just fine.
Okay. There's a little bit of a lag.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So we have to be aware of it. Yeah, that there may be some lagging. Goes well so far.
So here's the first little video. Is that working for you?
Not yet for me. I don't know. Oh. It's not working yet.
Oh, because it just played entirely for me. Let's try it again.
No. Kala, I mean, if you don't mind, I would send it anyway.
Send it to you guys?
Yeah. To Yelena and to Maria. I think you did it. You sent it to me yesterday, didn't you? So that I
tried to send it to the whole group.
Okay.
Here you all are. Yeah. Okay.
Лена, вы можете проверить, да, Маша? Ladies, can you see it in your emails?
Да, Марина Ивановна, все нормально. Мы видим, как переключается.
Да, я тоже. Все девочки, речь идет о том, получили ли вы на почту. Карла отправляет свое видео. Не видео, свою презентацию, чтобы не было проблем. Видео у нее пока не работает, вы видите. Чтобы вот не было такой задержки для россиян. Лучше, чтобы она... так, Маша получила. Маш, хорошо, тогда... Sorry. Masha received it. I mean, Maria received it, and we will have.
That's the old one. I'm sending the newest one.
You mean you sent the old? Oh, okay. Masha.
I'm sending the newest one right now, so you can get rid of the old one.
Masha, ignore the one you received. Маша, игнорируем то, которое мы только что получили. Она присылает сейчас следующее. Because I did not receive it, Kala.
You know, I can't read the names on this. I chose the email with the most people's names on it.
Okay. Okay, good. Мария Александровна, а у нас профессор подключается, да?
Oh, wait a minute. I see Masha. Denise. D as McNamara.
Danielle. So this name, Danielle McNamara.
Okay, we don't need Danielle.
No, we don't need Danielle, no.
Mesolin.
Yeah, that's me, M-E-S-O-L.
Okay.
Yeah, that's me, yeah.
Good, okay. So
Good.
I've got Mesolin, Masha, and Denise.
Yeah.
And
This is,
Gulnara. Gulnara doesn't need to be here.
well, she may join us.
She said she would be a spectator.
She said she would be sorry, what?
A spectator.
Oh. Well, I hope she would join the group and ask you questions. So, well.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, so Kala, are you speaking for 20 minutes? Yeah, expecting to answer questions for the set of 10 minutes, yeah?
Yeah.
Good, good.
So you're going to put the PowerPoint up, I take it, so
Yes,
that the video will play?
Yeah, and you will be able to control it, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it is, I mean, with videos, it is definitely going to be. So we haven't received, oh yeah, we have received it, yeah. Everything is okay now, we are uploading it, and we shall see how it works, so we do have some time. Мария Александровна, есть возможность связаться, да, с профессором Куссэ?
Марина Ивановна, он пока не на связи, не отвечает ни по WhatsApp. Я сейчас пыталась дозвониться до него. И напоминательное письмо ему сегодня отправляла со всеми кодами. Я боюсь, что он сегодня в Академии наук, он говорил, что загруженный день, и он должен успеть к началу. Но я смотрю на время, осталось буквально 7 минут. А можем ли мы начать с госпожи Мескилл?
Я тоже так думаю. So, Kala. Kala?
Yes?
So what if our German colleague is late? Will it be okay if you start? Instead of him, you will be the first presenter?
Absolutely, that's fine.
Good, good. Thank you very much.
So that would be at 9 o'clock or 9:30?
In 7 minutes. In
7 minutes, okay. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, yeah.
О, это чудесно. Спасибо огромное. Я попробую сейчас дозвониться до профессора.
Да, вы попробуйте с ним связаться, Маша, чтобы у нас проблем не было.
Скажите, пожалуйста, здравствуйте, а перевод будет?
Перевод, я так понимаю, у нас должен быть в параллельной сессии, да? У нас вот это идет на английском языке, а перевод на русский язык идет в параллельной сессии. Маша, у нас ведь есть, да, адрес для Анны Александровны, чтобы она тогда подключилась к другой, к другому каналу.
Где будет перевод?
Да, где будет перевод. Там есть, вот, Анна Александровна, то, что вы получили программу, а вот на сегодняшний день, там, сейчас я ее тоже себе загружу, там есть 2 колоночки, и вот в одной из колоночек...
Are you seeing the video, Marina?
I can see the first slide now.
Oh, I'm on I'm on slide 19 playing the video.
Yeah, are you controlling the slides?
Yes.
Good. Then try again.
You're not seeing the video?
I'm still on the first slide. Маша, вы передали управление, да, Карле?
Нужно, чтобы взяли управление, вот нужно нажать «Получить управление». Я так не смогу передать автоматически.
You have to click this icon on the top.
That's what I've been doing. But you're seeing the first slide. I'm seeing slide number 13.
Yeah, because you have been controlling it. You haven't been
Sharing it.
So there is these control slides icon. Yeah.
Take control.
Yep. Take it. Get it.
Okay.
Now you go.
Now can you see my video?
Not yet. Маша, а вы видите видео?
Марина Ивановна, я тоже не могу. А вот вижу, вот я его воспроизвела.
А у меня просто застывший слайд, то есть я видео не вижу, коллеги. Кто нас
Я
еще...
тоже. Я тоже не вижу.
А я вижу. У меня оно идет.
Нет, у нас видео нет. So, the people in the headquarters can see your video, Kala.
Oh, good.
But the spectators though.
Oh, no.
Марина Ивановна, техническая поддержка здесь, сейчас все будет.
It sounds like they need to change the constitution of the team then, right?
The constitution of the team, да.
Марина Ивановна, вот Хольгер, прошу прощения, сейчас вышел на связь, пока через email он говорит, что пытается зайти в Teams, но не получается. Поэтому у нас сейчас есть буквально 30 минут, чтобы наладить связь, так же, как мы это сделали на тесте в воскресенье. Это кривая ссылка, которая нас видит вот в другой виртуальную комнату, к сожалению. Сейчас попробуем еще раз через браузер.
Мы с Леной это обсуждали, да-да-да. Да, пожалуйста, подключите его к этой команде.
Да, хорошо.
Маша, пока решается проблема, скажите, пожалуйста, Анну Александровну мы переключили на другой, да, канал? С переводом?
Я не могу найти это письмо.
Сейчас, Анна Александровна, сейчас скину. Секунду, сейчас вам отправлю лично.
Ну, у нас... Так, а Елена Валерьевна здесь у нас, да? Елена Валерьевна, вы будете переводить, да, или будет переводить Игорь?
Я перевожу, да, но меня вы не будете слышать, потому что я в другом канале. Я вот сейчас включилась, а сейчас опять выключусь.
Понятно, хорошо. So in 1 minute, ladies and gentlemen, in 1 minute we start broadcasting. So, Kala, can you please switch on the first slide?
I am on the first slide. Do I need to hit share screen now?
You're not on the first slide.
I am on my screen.
You're
Let
on
me
the,
hit. Should I
on
click
the
on
first
share
slide.
content?
No. I mean,
No.
it is the fourth slide for me.
I'm on number 1.
Маша?
Марина Ивановна, сейчас мы презентацию выключаем и загружаем заново. Все, сейчас будет презентация включена.
Кто мне скажет, когда начнется трансляция?
Начинаем.
Good morning and good evening and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Marina Solnoshkina. I represent Kazan Federal University, and it is my honor to start this plenary session in which we are to enjoy 3 plenary speakers and 3 plenary talks on different topics, but united by cognitive linguistics. And we also expect you to ask questions online in chat groups. And we also expect a discussion after every presentation. Every presentation is to last for 20 minutes. And I am apologizing on behalf of the organizing committee. We had to reschedule the first 2 presentations, and we start with Professor Carla Meskilл. Carla Meskilll is a friend of our university, may I say so?
Oh, yes.
Thank you very much. Yeah. And Carla is a professor in education, in educational theory and practice from Department of Educational Theory and Practice at State University of New York, Albany. You're very welcome, Carla. You have 20 minutes to share all you know.
Okay. Thank you. And greetings from beautiful Vermont in the Green Mountains. This is in the northeastern part of the United States, where we're enjoying some lovely wintry weather today. And I'd like to thank all of the organizers for all their hard work putting this wonderful conference together and for inviting me. I really appreciate that. One of the most consistent findings of my research over the last 25 years on online instruction is that questions and answers are so much more rich if they are written rather than spoken. So for the last 25 years, I have taught almost exclusively asynchronously online via text. And with this advent of video streaming, I'm stunned that it's so popular because the asynchronous mode is so superior. So saying that, I encourage you all to construct beautifully written questions and comments in the chat feature, and or please email me so that we can continue the conversation, because I find that medium, that mode, the most superior for learning and for sharing. So we put the PowerPoint up. I'm not seeing my PowerPoint.
We are working on it. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Carla. Yeah. And we will definitely write to you. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Now request control of the PowerPoint.
Yep, please.
Okay, so as we all know very well, the visual aspect of digital communication is starting to really shape how we make meaning in ever more novel and important ways, especially in terms of literacy development and language acquisition. In recent years, we could go to slide 2. In recent years, we have experienced a radical shift away from text-based meaning to visual-based meaning conveyance, or what I like to call, or many people have come to call, the visual turn in literacy and language. And today I'd like to talk about some of the impacts this visual turn is having on how we communicate, how we use language, and in turn, how this turn towards the visual is shaping language education and education more broadly. We could go to slide 3. Visual content is 50 times more likely to get shared on social media than any other type of content.
Carla, I'm sorry. Something is wrong with the presentation. I hope the guys are trying to fix it. Just a moment, yeah? Just a moment.
Should I try to share my, there it is. If we could go to slide 3.
Yep. Okay, now we all can see this. Yeah, sorry again.
Okay. Just get rid of that would be good. I have something sticking up on my screen too. All right, so 50 times more likely to be shared on social media if there's visual. And this is an older statistic. I suspect that in these days where everyone is stuck at home, that's probably more like 70 times more likely to be shared if it's visual rather than simply text. Facebook posts with images see 230% more engagement than those without images. That is, people will look at a Facebook post much more frequently than with images than without images. And they'll engage with that post for longer time. Tweets also that have embedded images get 150% more retweets. So this visual phenomenon is clearly shaping how we communicate. Since the earliest days of our love affair with digital, we have really developed a whole host, a whole set of shorthand forms of written speech. We've moved, I wish I could see this. I can't see my, okay. So if we could be on slide 4, please. We've also moved a great deal of communication from the verbal to the visual, with an estimated 70% shift to images relaying and relating our messages in social media. This shift illustrates what adaptive beings we are. We've gone from understanding via verbal to textual and now to the image. It also illustrates what pattern seekers we are. We are wired for language. We are wired for seeking out consistencies and inconsistencies in what we experience via language. We're doing the same with visuals in a very kind of interesting and enlightening way. We've inadvertently become visual artists and videographers, like our students. We have already we have these constantly evolving tools that make this easier and more readily available to everyone. And these kinds of tools and these capabilities of sharing are shaping, again, they're shaping how we are communicating with one another. If we could go to slide 6. Again, another slide, another slide. I can't see these, so. Another one. Catch up here. Another slide, please. Another. Another. Here we go. So where a few years ago, people said we are in the midst of something called an infodemic. We're just having this endemic flood of information and learning to be managers of that information. Now, people are calling what we're experiencing with social media and imagery a visiodemic. That is, we're being bombarded with these visual images, and really, and to some degree in education, we lack the wherewithal to understand those visuals and to help our students to understand and construct positive and efficient meaning conveying visuals, which is something I'll address shortly. Sadly, the trend in formal education was and still is to stick with the verbal, with the teacher's voice, and with the text as the primary tools. So how do we, as teachers, as educators, as language researchers, how do we start considering the visual and what it's meaning to our students and to the evolution of literacy and language? How do we begin to think about this? Well, can we go to the next slide? With the advent of television, media theorist Marshall McLuhan observed that it is the framework that changes with each new technology and not just the picture within the frame. This is a very important observation, that just like the way we speak influences the meaning that we make, the form of our speech the form, the message, the visual message also shapes the way the content gets communicated. And this observation was made, of course, in the context of television, the advent of television. So this is indeed the case with digital visuals. The screens and the tools we use on them determine our perspective. They shape how we think about the content and how we communicate the content and how we understand and make meaning. Just as the frameworks or new digital screen technologies evolve, so too does the content and the messages that appear on them. As McLuhan points out, there's a two-way reciprocal shaping that goes on between the form, the media, and the content. The compositions and conventions of particular modalities are not merely envelopes into which unaltered messages are inserted, The symbol systems affect the content and give it distinctive form. Indeed, as a medium such as television develops, it's not only moving farther away from its next of kin, movies and even radio, it changes and mimics the message when these are transmitted through it. You go to the next slide. In short, what McLuhan and other theorists point out is that the textual meaning of the novel, Moby Dick, which is a famous American novel about a whale. Many of you probably are familiar with it. Very famous movies have been made about Moby Dick. Moby Dick is now in emoji form. You can actually read the novel via emojis. So how does this change our understanding of Moby Dick? I would guess it's a pretty intense shift in our understanding of the novel if it's done in emojis. Characteristic of digital screens are their authenticity, their energy, their brightness, their regularity, which we'll talk about in a moment, their mutability, their boundedness, the way they are expressed via color, graphics, shapes, texture, timbre. It's all of these elements that enliven and draw viewers in. That's why we are becoming a visually dominant society. When a society comes to rely on screens the way we have, screens influence society's view of reality. And I contend that the view of Moby Dick has greatly shifted when it's in emoji form. When we learn text-based literacy skills, we learn the appropriate placement of punctuation marks, the shapes of paragraphs and essays, the anatomy of different genres of writing, how to address various readers, and the like. Learning about composition and conventions for digital screens is not that different. We have the next slide, please. As with language, digital screen conventions evolve from any number of contributing social and cultural sources, from the arts, from architecture, poetry, physics, to just name a few. Conventions for screens, like linguistic conventions, have evolved to streamline the production and processing of content and the consequent meaning making that we do with them. And now more than ever, both language and visual are used simultaneously to communicate online. While conventions are our effort to ensure uniform understanding, breaking these rules and conventions can contribute to the enticing, the teasing, the fooling, the convincing, the gimmicks, the scamming, the selling, and all the crazy interaction that we're now experiencing in our online digital culture. This is not unlike the ways that we play with language. Indeed, this confluence of the visual and the verbal is a renaissance in verbal and visual playfulness. Next slide, please. Like our innate language competencies, our digital visual competencies immediately detect what is gratuitous on digital screens, visual bits that serve no purpose. This is testament to our deep familiarity with digital conventions and the digital visual interpretive abilities that are in play and that we are developing. We are responding in accordance with our digital visual literacy and our ever-developing competence with digital screen conventions. And here we have a list of 4 of these conventions by Kostlik and Havern. And we'll go through these. Can we go to the next slide, please? So the first of these is that conventions prompt invention and playfulness and creativity. Rarely stand still. They respond to technology. Could somebody play the video? Because my screen is seized up here. So as we can see in this TikTok, nope, go back, please. And play the video. Should I get rid of this thing? So we can see in this TikTok video how this, which is a very popular tool with young people to share their creativity and their playfulness. We can see how just throwing together a simple video can be an act of communicating joy and color and liveliness. Now, next screen, please. Conventions. Next screen, please.
It's okay, we were enjoying it.
Thank you, good, I'm glad. Conventions pervade all forms of designs, headers, company logos, even when readers' expectations are met because of missing conventions. And as we see here, can somebody play that video? Movement in screens is fast becoming a requirement to grab attention. So very rarely now are we seeing images still. We're seeing lots of movement, which our young people are becoming quite accustomed to as a rhetorical device. Next screen, please. And could you play that video also? Conventions operate in social contexts where users control them and rely on shared knowledge, both writing and images. The interrelationships between symbols and movement may mean little to those outside of Chinese culture, as we can see in the video. In other words, there's a whole slew of rhetorical and symbolic systems going on here that people outside of Chinese culture may not be aware of at all. And in combination and with movement, also in their social context, they become very particular. Next slide, please. Finally, conventional practice is intrinsically rhetorical. Just like designers, when they employ conventions, they base it on their interpretation of potential readerships, just like writers do, and the situational context in which readers and viewers will encounter them. So this rhetorical device, which is very familiar to all of us, is when it appears on the screen, it's as if someone has entered the room and says, "We want to chat," or "I want to chat." It has a rhetorical function. And when the dots move on the icon, we are almost holding our breath, waiting for the speaker to respond to us. So it's a very interesting phenomenon that these simple representations, these icons, can communicate so much and impact how we communicate. So again, we're essentially pattern seekers. Just as the ear seeks out oral patterns, so do our hyperactive eyes seek out ways of making sense with these novel visual data. We're pretty good at it. Nobody's teaching us. Conventions, like the rules of language, help us to make sense, and they are ever evolving. So what are some of the implications of this shift to the visual for education, for language, for literacy? Can we have the next slide, please? Well, the first is to consider students not as passive recipients, obviously, but as curators. And this is a term that can encompass agency and authenticity, where students become designers, makers, arbiters, critics, where they're in control of the visual media. And obviously, they're much better at it than we educators are. And so that's one of the implications, is that students can be the controllers, the makers, the curators of the digital media. So don't go off looking for images, have your students do it. They're very good at it. And secondly, students as designers of instruction and and designers of instructional conversations is a route to mastery of content. So putting students in charge of the meaning making with the images and having them become the guides and the models of good instructional conversations is a way to deal with the visual shift, the visual turn. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the talk, online asynchronous rehearsal time is a gift, and having all the resources at hand to compose, to edit, to refine our communications with images or without images is really a big plus. and should be taken advantage of. I won't say any more about that. I think I ranted a little bit about that at the beginning. And finally, one of the implications is that we can guide students to illustrate their speech, especially in language education, much as they do in social media. They are becoming illustrators of their thoughts and illustrators of their verbal output. So we can encourage that and integrate it into our instruction quite readily. Okay, next slide, please. So, and if you could hit return. So students' fluency in this new language and literacy is critically important. They're bringing that to instruction with us. We should definitely be taking advantage of it and learning with and from our students. And I think if you hit a couple of, if you advance the slide. No, advance. Advance. Oh, we missed one. That's okay. So thank you very much. And I think we may have missed the book. I have a book coming out in this February that looks at this kind of digital turn, this digital visual turn in language and literacy. And I encourage you to ask me about it and ask all sorts of questions and provide comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carla. That was very, very impressive. Okay, colleagues, any questions so far to Carla? We have about 7 minutes for a discussion. Professor Kuse, you have a question? Okay, Carla.
So I can, well, if you let me speak, I'm happy to ask one question.
Please. Yes,
Thank
please.
you, Paula, for this, well, really great presentation. This is something I also been thinking about for, well, for some time. And the question is, this shift that is happening now or has already happened, does it mean that this distinction between like auditory learners and visual learners is irrelevant now? Because I've always thought that I am a kind of auditory learner. For me, it's easier to perceive information by reading, yeah? And so just repeating, pronouncing things, I can memorize things. But now, because so many new methods people talk about and like try to memorize things with the help of images, and that it's much more useful, does it mean that like in 10 years, we won't have people who are auditory learners?
What a fascinating idea. I would guess that, yes, you're right. I think there is some very interesting brain research going on looking at how people's brains are handling multimodal information, the auditory track simultaneous with the visual and the textual. And there are sort of leanings towards the visual over the auditory and the textual. So it could very well be that in 10 years' time, we are a completely visual culture. That's a fascinating idea to explore. Well, and I think it depends quite a bit on what we emphasize in our classrooms with our students and how we define literacy now.
Yeah.
Are we still a textual culture? Are we still depending on text as a way of archiving and making meaning?
Yeah, I think that's what I've been thinking about. Well, are we the same? Because my students and my child, well, they all like, you know, digest and process information differently, but they are not, you know, less intelligent than those people I know, like those who are older. Yeah, they are not less intelligent. They are maybe smart. Yeah, if we can like measure this. This anyhow. Yeah, thank you. It was really, really interesting.
Thank you. I completely agree about young people being more intelligent. having access to all of this multimodal information. It's just astounding how much smarter they are than we were.
Yeah, so that's why we should somehow adjust, right? We should adjust. Well, try to find some common language, and maybe here you are absolutely right, giving some tips. Yeah, try to, well, think like them. Try to use things they use,
right.
And like
learn from them. They're good teachers.
Yeah, right. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carla. We are expecting one more question in chat in a minute. Hopefully, one of our colleagues cannot participate face-to-face, so to say. And while she's texting her question, may I ask you about the word convention in general? Because, well, for me as a linguist, the word conventional always meant kind of traditional, maybe old-fashioned, and unconventional, eccentric.
Right.
Yeah, so when we speak about conventions, all these images pop up in the mind, okay? So, and the tendency here is that if we are not doing, I mean, we as teachers, if we are not doing everything what we are expected from our students to be doing, then we are viewed as what? Unconventional.
Unconventional, yes.
So, I mean, yeah, many concepts do change nowadays, but this one is a very interesting one.
It is. And what's very interesting to me is that if you look at any of the research or any of the books on how to use technology in education, the definition of technology innovation is unconventional, is unique, is new, is something beyond the traditional. So there's a history here of breaking rules with technology, and that's a prized aspect of education now is to go beyond the norm, go beyond the tradition. So in that respect, you're right. Conventional has that feel of tradition and trustworthiness.
Yeah.
When I use the word convention here, though, it's the same as rule, I would say.
Exactly.
So the rules of digital visual literacy versus the rules of language.
Yeah.
I use the word convention because rules sounds more static, and convention to me, if you just use the word convention, it's a developing aspect of our literacy and our language.
Yeah.
So it's constantly in flux. A rule sounds very permanent, but a convention is something that develops over time with cultural and societal influences.
Yeah, but it also reminds us of our, I'm sorry, customers, who are our students, who are now dictating these rules. I mean,
yes.
because this is better for them. Okay, so we still expect this question. I ask my moderators to read it. So, Carla, are you staying with us? Because I have to give the floor to Professor Kousse. But as soon as we get this question, can we go back to you, please?
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, welcome Professor Holger Kousse. And I have to shift to the Russian language. Профессор Института славистики Технического университета Дрездена, специалист в области славянских языков, общего языкознания, лингвокультурологии, теории дискурса, лингвопрагматики, член Германской академии наук и литературы, соруководитель совместной магистерской программы Технического университета Дрездена и Казанского федерального университета. Добро пожаловать!
Добро пожаловать! Вы уже открыли вот мою презентацию, так что пусть попробуем так, потому что я думаю, что я сам вот со своей стороны буду проводить вас через презентацию. Ну, попробуем.
Профессор Куссэ, вы можете получить управление Там
Да,
сверху есть, да, и сами будете листать презентацию.
да, хорошо, потому что я думаю, что это легче будет.
Да-да-да, это будет легче, да, пожалуйста.
Так, я открою сейчас, да? Или...
Вы можете использовать эту, то есть именно...
Ага, вот эту именно, да?
Да, вы можете
А.
использовать эту и ее же перелистывать. То есть есть такая функция перелистывания.
Ага, хорошо. А сейчас я не вижу вот презентацию сейчас, так что, может быть, я все-таки свою вот просто открою.
Давайте попробуем.
Попробуем. Так. Сейчас, а где? Только сейчас я не вижу. Где? Сейчас, минуточку. Вот там. Все это так... Нельзя.
Может быть, мы все-таки попробуем с нашей презентацией.
Да, я просто вот
Мария Николаевна,
сейчас я не
загрузите,
найду. Я не знаю, вот что это такое опять. Это все так сложно вот с
Вы
этим
можете просто
зумом.
нас просить переключать. Если получать управление не получается, тогда вы
Да.
просите нас переключать слайды, и мы будем перелистывать.
Хорошо. А где... я получил уже вот это или нет?
Попробуйте переключить слайд. Там сверху над экраном, нет, над экраном есть кнопка.
Над экраном?
Да, над экраном есть кнопка.
Влево, снизу есть
что я
слайд.
умване, может быть, это?
Здорово.
Ага.
Управление.
Сейчас работает. Хорошо. Да. Так, дорогие коллеги, извините, что у меня вот такие сложности вообще сначала вообще попасть в конференцию, и сейчас еще вот с этими слайдами. Но я думаю, что сейчас все будет хорошо. И о чем я буду говорить, не о интернетовой коммуникации, как предыдущий говорящий, но все-таки о современной коммуникации, а именно о языковом ландшафте. Это тоже очень популярная тема в наших днях, в лингвистике. То есть все, что мы видим в публичном пространстве, и в том числе сегодня все, что касается коронавируса, и все эти приказы, афиши и так далее. Конечно, афиши и таблички в основном информативнее, да, и что делать, и что нельзя, и так далее. Но в них, как интересно, скрывается и в непрямом смысле, косвенном смысле разные ценности. Я могу говорить только о коронавирусном языковом ландшафте в Германии, потому что, ну, как вы знаете, ехать куда-то уже практически невозможно, тем более в России и в другие страны. А то я говорил бы с удовольствием и о языковом ландшафте как раз в России или даже в Казани. Что у меня здесь? Это информация для гостей маленького ресторана недалеко от моего института. А у них, когда они были еще открыты, сейчас у нас все рестораны закрыты, к сожалению, но у них была вот такая информация для гостей. И вот вы видите, маленький коронавирус, да, уже носит сам себе, защищает себя от себя, маску носит, и вот там написано в виде комикса: обязанность носить маску. Пожалуйста, наденьте маску, чтобы защитить свое здоровье. Что мы здесь видим? Во-первых, призыв, потому что здесь Maskenpflicht слово, там есть слово Pflicht, обязанность, и маска – это маска. То есть это в одном слове выражается уже призыв носить именно вот эту маску. Ну, потом мы видим два слова. Первое слово «шутz», второе «gesundheit». А «шутz» – это защита, и «gesundheit» – это здоровье. И к тому же конструкция, формулировка такая: «Bitte tragen Sie», то есть «пожалуйста, наденьте». Это уже просьба. Просьба защищаться именно этой маской. И интересно, не для защиты других, а для своего здоровья. То есть у нас есть сначала призыв, потом формулировка в виде просьбы, а потом выражаются две ценности. Как раз защита и здоровье. Ну, безопасность, можно сказать, переформулировать. И gesundheit, то есть здоровье. Две ценности. И все в этом плакате в очень короткой форме. Я сейчас в дальнейшем буду немножко говорить о коронавирусных языковых ландшафтах или языковом ландшафте, но не только в Германии, вы видите это потом. Потом о вопросах немножко вежливости, потому что вежливость тоже является ценностью. И потом о разных ценностях, которые выражаются в подобных таблицах, информативных таблицах, афишах и так далее. Да, коронавирусные языковые ландшафты. Очень интересно. Вот мои дочери сейчас живут и в Бельгии, и в Швеции. Это очень интересно, потому что могут мне послать свои там языковые ландшафты и то, что они мне послали. Вот то, что вы очень слева видите, это Бельгия. Это не очень хорошо видно, что там написано, но это не важно, потому что важно только вот это, что маска является очень важной. Вот это в центре, там вот изображена. И вот этот плакат висит уже в городе, в центре города, не в магазине где-то, потому что в Бельгии, в городе и на улице люди уже давно обязаны носить маску. Итак, вот такие правила, конечно, выражаются и в языковом ландшафте. Во-первых, в центре стоит изображение маски, семиотика маски, очень важно. И, во-вторых, такие плакаты находятся не в магазинах, в зданиях и так далее, но на прямом улице. На прямой улице. Вот вторая, это из Швеции. А вы видите, здесь вообще не маски, потому что сейчас начинают, но еще недавно вообще там маски практически не были знакомы. Так что люди не носили маску. Единственное, что было важно, вот это было расстояние, дистанция. Вот это афиша, вот плакат видели где-то в книжном магазине. И, что очень важно, такая шведская вежливость, сразу вот говорят спасибо и спасибо для вашей еще вот сердце и так далее, и так далее. То есть в плакате выражается только это расстояние и очень, скажем, сильно выражается вот эта вежливость и ценность понимания, и еще вот поддерживается в это сердце. А в Германии очень типичная фиша вот такая, вот сама на крае. Во-первых, в очень многих магазинах требуется, что не слишком много людей вообще входили. То максимально 40 людей. Там в этом магазине позволяется. Потом, конечно, расстояние, и потом тоже маска. И это не только вот спасибо для вашего понимания или что-то что-то подобное. А опять очень важная ценность – Sicherheit, то есть безопасность. Безопасность постоянно встречается в очень многих плакатах в Германии. И, конечно, как относятся люди вот к всем этим вопросам, видно иногда на том, как они и в ландшафте. Это тоже из Бельгии, вот эта афиша здесь, ну, самодельная, и видно, что люди в этом магазине не очень довольны с этими проблемами. God knows we are also sick of hearing this shit, but for now it's still the law, so please don't make us ask you 6 times, so big thanks. Так что они обращаются и по-английски, то есть к международной публике вот такими словами, что они против, вообще не хотят, но все-таки нет выбора, потому что закон это так требует. Но, возможно, конечно, совсем другие отношения вот к этим правилам. Например, вот такая популярный плакат, который находится в разных магазинах, особенно для продуктов питания. Deine Gesundheit liegt uns am Herzen. Твое здоровье близко нашим сердцем. Пожалуйста, береги себя и используй маски для защиты рота и так далее, и так далее. То есть здесь, конечно, одобряются вот эти правила официально, и даже это связывается вот опять вот с некоторыми ценностями. Во-первых, что это кому-то близко к сердцу, и опять, конечно, здоровье и безопасность очень важно. И, как интересно, притом еще дают возможность не только носить маску, но и, например, шарф. То есть дают в определенном смысле и немножко свободу. И с этим мы уже находимся и в сфере вопроса вежливости. Мы можем сравнить вот эти обе плакаты. На первом написано очень такой шрифтом, чуть не агрессивный, Maskenpflicht. Но это явный призыв, там без всякой вежливости. Вот это можно встречаться, и потом есть интересно вот совсем другие плакаты, совсем другого рода. Вот как, например, вот с правой стороны. Дорогие гости, пожалуйста, наденьте защиту для рта в общественных местах. То есть вот такие, во-первых, обращения, дорогие гости, и потом опять не призыв, а просьба. И, конечно, интересно, в обоих случаях надо обязательно надеваться вот маску. Маска обязательно. Только это вопрос обращения. Одни вот таким образом обращаются, а другие предпочитают такие вежливые формы. Можно встречать в языковом ландшафте и то, и другое. Слава Богу, я бы сказать, такие вежливые формы более распространенные. Потому что вот с левой стороны это вызывает уже внутренний протест, когда вот подобное читаешь и видишь. И это можно и выразить не только вот такими формами, дорогие гости, то есть обращениями, и потом вот такими формами, пожалуйста, наденьте и так далее, но это уже вот как мне, как лингвист, конечно, интересно, как это выражается не только, скажем, прямо, мы знаем прямые формы вежливости, но и в самой форме слова. Когда употребляется в сложно сочиненными словами корень Pflicht, то это, конечно, уже призыв. То есть обязанность носить защиту для рта и носа, Mund-Nasenschutzpflicht. То есть это совсем призыв. А здесь, пожалуйста, носите, и это не только пожалуйста, но потом не Schutzpflicht, а употребляется другое слово покрытие для рта и носа. То есть избегается вот слово просто Pflicht, обязанность, а зато употребляется нейтральная форма описания того, что есть, потому что это маска, это какое-то покрытие для рта и носа. И потом это очень часто и сочетается с изобразительными формами. То есть левая форма – это более, скажем, жесткая там форма, чуть не агрессивная, а слева это как-то более или менее уже симпатичная форма, ну, какая-то попытка дизайнерской форме изображать маску, то есть чтобы это лучше сочеталось с вежливой формой. И еще, и это очень интересно, иногда есть такие объяснения. Объяснения, конечно, еще более вежливые, когда не только говоришь, что, пожалуйста, наденьте, или даже вы обязаны носить маску, но когда объясняют, почему. А здесь очень симпатичная, по-моему, информация вот в ресторане. Защита для рта. То же самое является защитой для сотрудников. Mundschutz ist Mitarbeiterschutz. И картинки тоже очень такие симпатичные. Это тоже, по-моему, форма вежливости, потому что, когда я объясняю мои желания, это уже форма вежливости. Так. И таким образом мы уже перейдем к ценностям. Ну, мы уже видели, что есть ценности, конечно, здоровья, само слово защита или безопасность, они являются, конечно, и выражают какие-то ценности. Но очень важная ценность вокруг, скажем, коронавируса, который часто встречается в языковом ландшафте, это слово и ценность ответственность. И это часто употребляется, потому что и выражается, потому что с ним можно играть, сделать маленькую игру словами. Потому что есть такое выражение, конструкция носить ответственность, то есть быть ответственностью, отвечать за что-то. И, конечно, носить маску, то же самое. И вы видите вот такие изображения смайлами, где вот написано «носить ответственность» или «сегодня носят ответственность». То есть ответственность носить маску – это уже выражение ответственности. И ответственность, само собой, разумеется, является ценностью. И безопасность. И с безопасностью тоже можно немножко играть словами. С левой стороны, это уже то, что я уже сказал, что очень часто требуется, что не больше, скажем, определенного количества людей входит в какой-то магазин, в какое-то здание, бюро и так далее. И здесь на плакате это объясняется с ценностью безопасности или защиты. Защиты, ну, в данном случае безопасности. Меньше клиентов, больше безопасности. Поэтому мы ограничиваем числа клиентов. А игра слов это в следующем плакате «Макдональдс, aber sicher», потому что вот такое выражение «Макдональдс, но безопасно», вот, или «Макдональдс, безопасность», значит другое конструкция, aber sicher в немецком языке употребляется в смысле, да, конечно, по-другому нельзя, куда же то идти и так далее. То есть, естественно, Макдональдс надо посетить. Вот этот двойной смысл слова «sicher» здесь используется. И потом вежливая форма, bitte Maske tragen, пожалуйста, носите маску. Вы видите, очень много плакатов вот именно вот с ценностью безопасности для вашей и нашей безопасности. И потом все эти объяснения, маска, расстояние и так далее. Здоровье, слева плакат я уже показал, и есть уже в немецком языке очень распространено вот такое выражение «bleiben Sie gesund», оставайтесь здоровыми. Это можно сейчас употреблять как прощание, ну, как «до свидания», вместе «до свидания» говорится там сегодня оставайтесь здоровыми. И вот эта информация в городе Берлине, вот поэтому там медведь, тоже вот выражается вот таким прощальным выражением «оставайтесь здоровыми», и еще указывается на расстояние, которое надо соблюдать. Вот эта информация тоже очень интересна. Прояви порядочность, держи дистанцию. Дистанция, расстояние как новая ценность. Как, где вот там говорится «прояви порядочность, держи дистанцию», это уже, скажем, прямо сказано, что дистанция является, по крайней мере сегодня, но может быть и вообще, знак порядочности, вежливости тоже, вот там, как относится к другим. Конечно, с расстоянием, дистанцией, чтобы другого не трогать. Или будьте внимательны, nehmen Sie Rücksicht. Это тоже очень важно. В плакатах вот слово «Rücksicht» очень часто встречается как такая ценность. Расстояние, соблюдить расстояние, не трогать другого, является уже таким образом ценность. Проблема с этой ценностью, конечно, состоит в том, что расстояние является и что не близко к людям. И поэтому мы иногда встречаем такие плакаты, где выражается, что можно быть близко по сердцу, несмотря на расстояние 1,5 метра, например. И с этим связана вот последняя ценность – это совместность. Например, здесь в вокзале я вот снимал «Gemeinsam für unsere Gesundheit, вместе за наше здоровье». Есть совместность, является новой ценностью, или вот ценность, которая очень часто выражается вот на таких плакатах. Это тоже вот в плакате правительства ФРГ, официальное мероприятие. Эти плакаты везде вы найдете. Такая формула, ага, называется Abstand, Hygiene и Alltagsmasken, расстояние, гигиена и повседневная маска. И вот там написано «Zusammen gegen Corona», вместе против короны. То есть ценность быть вместе. И очень, конечно, симпатично, когда люди это самодельно вот рисуют, вот такие самодельные плакаты. повешать. Например, здесь Regeln für einen guten Umgang, правила хорошего существования. Тоже вот такая ценность сосуществования, быть вместе и так далее. Да, спасибо вам за внимание. С этим плакатом я закончу. И, может быть, если у вас вопросы, я готов, конечно, к ним ответить.
Спасибо, профессор Куссэ. Коллеги, вопросы? Да, Мария Александровна, пожалуйста. Мария Александровна, микрофон отключен.
Есть возможность.
Мария Александровна, вы опять отключили микрофон.
Спасибо большое, уважаемый профессор. Спасибо большое. Интересный доклад на актуальную тему. И в представленных вами текстах можно наблюдать поликодовость, репрезентированную семиотически разнородными средствами, как вербальными, так и невербальными.
Да, совершенно верно.
И обобщая ваш доклад, хотелось бы спросить, какие закономерности проявления содержательного и формального аспектов вами были выявлены? Проще говоря, какие вербальные и невербальные знаки, как правило, присутствуют в текстах объявлениях коронавирусного языкового ландшафта? Спасибо большое.
Что касается изобразительных знаки, это почти всегда знак расстояния и знак маски. Вот эти стрелки и маска, они почти всегда встречаются. И потом нередко добавляется сердце. Это вот как такая, в сердце близко, но все-таки надо вот соблюдать расстояние и так далее. Сердце, конечно, это очень конвенциональный знак, не очень креативный, но сразу понятный, поэтому добавляет очень часто. И потом, если более подробно, появляется потом, как помыть руки, вот такие знаки, более сложные. Но если мы обобщаем это, то это всегда стрелки и маска. И маска, как интересно, конечно, уже живет свою собственную жизнь. Иногда, вот это здесь я не показывал, иногда встречаются плакаты, там вообще только маска. Там ничего не написано, там просто маска, уже, потому что сегодня уже все ясно. Но с этим, конечно, не выражается ценность, поэтому я это не показываю. Но они, конечно, тоже очень смешные, когда только маска где-то ясно, там надо носить маску.
Спасибо. У нас один очень короткий вопрос. Анна Александровна Петрова, профессор, пожалуйста, Волгоградский университет.
Волгоградский?
Казанский федеральный.
Это будет интересно. Господин Куссэ, здравствуйте. Очень интересный у вас был доклад. И у меня вообще время такое интересное, поскольку пандемия нам предлагает совершенно уникальный материал для исследования. И сейчас очень многие в Германии собирают разные видеозаписи, вообще все, что угодно, и исследуют именно с мультимодальной точки зрения, потому что у меня вопрос будет к литературе, вернее, не к литературе, а, собственно говоря, от литературы к вам. Вот я посмотрела литературу, совершенно ясно, что вы представляете одну из концепций мультимодальности, связанной с англичанами, с Великобританией. И именно, значит, вы исследуете как бы аспект вашей мультимодальности, это Text-Bild-Verhältnis.
Да, правда.
То есть это отношение текста и изображения. Ваша литература начинается с Петера Ауэра, который исследует как раз языковые ландшафты.
Да.
И далее у вас написано, что это его, значит, статья касается структурирования общественного пространства посредством письменного языка. Но он же исследовал изображения в контексте, in der Umgebung. Да? Какое вот плакат и обязательно контекст, обязательно его окружение. Я увидела только один ваш слайд, там, где вы сказали на вокзале. И на вокзале что-то было видно. Все остальное вы намеренно вот это убрали или нет?
Сейчас я сначала не понял, что вы хотите спрашивать. Да, вот это, конечно, тоже очень интересно смотреть. Я вначале вот сказал, что в Бельгии там это на улице у нас это вы не находите, в Швеции тем более, в зданиях, в магазинах в основном. И вот это первый контекст. Потом, конечно, разные там плакаты, например, о здоровье, очень часто встречаются именно в магазинах. Более в магазинах, например, чем в институте. У нас тоже в институте есть вот подобные плакаты, но там здоровье не упоминается. Когда магазин, особенно для продуктов, ясно, что там здоровье играет очень большую роль. Здоровье, гигиена и так далее. Правильно, можно, конечно, и еще учитывать целый контекст. Там, может быть, в двери, вот на полу наклеены вот какие-то афиши и так далее. Да, но что касается ценностей, я думаю, что эта роль не такой большой играет. Это скорее какую роль играет изображение и какую роль играет текст. И потом все вопросы, конечно, размера шрифта и так далее, и так далее. Вот там играет вот пространство, где находится вот огромную роль, это естественно. А для выражения ценностей, может быть, это уходит уже немножко на второй план, вот этот контекст, более широкий контекст, где сам текст находится. Поэтому я сосредоточивал именно вот на плакаты, а не на окружении, где они находятся.
Спасибо большое, профессор Куссэ. У нас еще один вопрос от профессора Лариной, Москва, РУДН.
Я думаю, что Добрый день всем, коллеги. Я думаю, что для вопросов уже просто времени не осталось. Я хочу поблагодарить уважаемого профессора Куссэ за такой интересный доклад, который очень близок к моему сердцу и очень меня порадовал, потому что я тоже работаю над этой темой. Языковой ландшафт – это действительно удивительный материал, который так много дает нам информации об обществе и социальной организации, и ценностях. Я рассматриваю как раз языковой ландшафт как источник исследования вежливости и стилей коммуникации. И меня очень порадовало, что вы как раз тоже связываете это с вежливостью. И я просто думаю, нам нужно продолжить с вами эту дискуссию. Отдельно попрошу Марины Ивановны ваш контакт, да, чтобы мы связались, потому что если я буду задавать вопросы, это и очень много я злоупотреблю временем. Поэтому большое спасибо, очень рада знакомству и надеюсь, что мы с вами его продолжим в интересной беседе. Спасибо еще раз огромное.
Спасибо, Татьяна Викторовна. На самом деле у меня, как у модератора, тоже есть вопросы, но я тоже не осмелюсь их сейчас здесь задать, потому что мы уже, behind the schedule. And, ladies and gentlemen, welcome Professor Daniel Макнамары, Arizona State University, Department of Psychology. And while Daniel, are you with us? Danielle? While Daniel is uploading her presentation, maybe if you both ladies are ready, Tatiana Viktorovna and Carla, maybe Tatiana Viktorovna, you will ask your question to Carla. Is it okay with you now?
Yes, okay. Can you hear me?
Carla, are you with us?
Yes, I can.
Good.
Marina, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Yeah. Carla, thank you very much for such a really inspiring talk. I liked it very much. And I was interested in your statement that conventions are intrinsically rhetorical, which is absolutely true, because as you have heard, I specialize in politeness theory and in the study of politeness. And I'm just wondering if you consider politeness theory in your research, because politeness, it is really, to much extent, is conventional.
That's a very interesting question. I think politeness is actually shifting quite a bit. I find, as I mentioned earlier, I've been teaching online for about 25 years, and over the years, I've just been observing that students are becoming much more polite than they used to be. It's almost as if there's a risk involved in not being polite. The risk of misunderstanding in asynchronous communication is much higher if you're just using text and chat, right? Don't you believe that there's a risk of misunderstanding is greater?
Yes, I see. Mm-hmm.
So if the risk of misunderstanding is greater, I think a compensatory convention would be up the politeness, more polite.
Yes, I agree. Mm-hmm.
That's my observation. I think it would make a really fascinating study to look at transcripts of online classes over the last 2 decades and see if that politeness, what the markers of politeness are, and how they have increased among our students.
Yes, diachronically and also cross-culturally.
Cross-culturally, oh my goodness, that's a whole fascinating intercultural communication would be fascinating to see about politeness.
That is what I'm doing, comparing Russian and British politeness.
Which language?
Russian and English, but particularly British English. It's really a very fascinating field, which also takes us so much and gives so much information about society, about cultural values, about communicative style, and it helps a lot in teaching second language.
Very much. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think also a future field of study may be looking at the politeness involved in imagery. Some of the images that students are throwing around on social media are rude. So what constitutes a polite image versus polite image? And is it a continuum? That could be a very fascinating way to look at digital imagery and our relationship with it.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, and welcome again, Danielle Macnamara, Arizona State University, Department of Psychology, and one of my best friends, and my beloved American. Okay, Daniela, the floor is yours.
Okay, great, thank you. So everything's working right? I've got everything up?
Yep, we can see it, the power of computational linguistics.
Okay, good. So I'm going to talk about the power of computational linguistics today. You know, it's in honor of your conference and what most of you are studying language, and basically how powerful knowing about languages and using computational tools in order to extract linguistics. So there we go. Before I start, I just wanted to give you a little bit of information about myself, since most of you probably don't know me or who I am. I'm actually from Kansas, and from Kansas, when I was very young, I went to France, and then I went back to Kansas, and then I moved to Colorado, and then to Virginia, and then to Tennessee, and then to Arizona. So I've kind of lived all over. I began my studies in psychology, but quickly changed to linguistics because I accidentally discovered that I really love linguistics. And then I studied things like memory and skill acquisition and comprehension when I went back to Colorado. in the end, I started doing research on comprehension and started building strategy interventions, tutoring technologies. And in that quest, I focused a lot on natural language processing. So I'm going to talk a little bit about those tutoring technologies that I've developed, as well as some natural language processing tools. So just in case you don't know where Kansas is, this is Kansas, right in the middle of the United States. And you can see it's a red state. And then you go from, I went from Kansas, then to France, and then left France and came back to Kansas. And then I basically moved all over the United States. And now I'm in Arizona. So the power of computational linguistics. What I want to talk about, like I said, is that the language of others and our own language can provide us with an amazing amount of information about our cognition, our social processes, our knowledge, our skills, and how we learn. And so what I have been focused on for a number of years is how we can extract that, and then how much information we can gain from that language. So I'm going to talk about, in this talk, I'm going to talk about 3 technologies. One's Cometrix, called iStart. The third one is WritingPal. So I'll talk more about those. I'm going to talk about how they work. And in particular, I'm going to focus here on the importance of the computational linguistics that drive them. And I'm going to talk about, at the very end, computational linguistics and how linguistics reveal aspects of cognition.
Danielle, I'm awfully sorry. We can see now you, not your presentation.
Oh, okay. That's bad. How long has that been going on?
We enjoy it. You probably need the presentation.
So how long has that been going on?
The last slide, Cometrix.
Just this last slide. Okay. I guess I will stop sharing and then share again.
Yeah.
And you can tell me if
Yeah, here we go. Now we can see the slide which is entitled Cometrix.
Okay, all right. Okay, so back on track. Let me know if that happens again. Happy to stop and fix the share.
Yeah, I will.
Okay, good. So Commetrics is a tool that we developed. I started developing it in about the year 2000. So it took about a decade to develop Commetrics. And what it does is it extracts language on various levels and then provides that information to you. And so basically, sometimes the thing doesn't work. So essentially, it's built to provide linguistic features related to readability and the quality of text. So mostly we are focusing on the readability or the difficulty of the text. So for example, one of the things that we can extract is the difficulty of the lexicon, the words, the word sophistication. So we extract various information about lexical sophistication. We also focus on syntactic simplicity and complexity and the degree to which it may be difficult to parse the information. Mostly what we're focused on is cohesion, because there were no tools prior to Commetrics that provided the information about how a text might be more or less coherent for the reader due to overlap between ideas and overlap between words and overlap in terms of the semantic content, which helps the reader to make inferences as they're reading. And then we also can extract information about the semantics, that is, what are the meanings of the words and how they are related to one another. So here are some example Commetrics measures. So for example, we have word measures, number of syllables, word frequency, concreteness, imagery, whether or not the word has multiple meanings or fewer meanings. Then syntax, structural complexity, words before the main verb gives you a lot of information about the complexity of syntax. And then the focus, like I said, of Cometrics was on building a tool that would give information about both co-reference cohesion as well as what we call situation model cohesion. So co-reference cohesion is more local, so information about noun and argument overlap, stem overlap, lexical diversity, pronouns. And then situation model cohesion is more about the causation and the logical operators and information about various rhetorical cues. So here's an example from one of the tools we built. It's called Terra. And so it gives the component scores in Cometrics. So for example, narrativity, syntactic simplicity, word concreteness, referential and cohesion, and deep cohesion. And so what you'll see here is that I extracted a section of Tolstoy. It's during a scene when they are at war. And what you'll see, interestingly, is that if you just use Flesch Kincaid, it would tell you that Tolstoy is a grade 4. So that means that a child in 4th grade would be able to understand Tolstoy. So I did actually read Tolstoy when I was 12, but I assure you I did not understand the deep meaning of Tolstoy when I was 12. And what the reason is because of the referential cohesion. So referential cohesion of Tolstoy, Tolstoy is interesting because it makes you make inferences, and those inferences are what make it interesting, and you can read it at different levels. Well, I could talk about that for an hour, but I'm not going to. So there were more NLP tools that we've developed. Chris Kyle and Scott Crosley were heavily involved in that. We have more tools that focus on cohesion, lexical properties, sentiment, overlap in terms of semantics, and even a simple NLP tool where you can kind of build your own tool. And then more recently, we're working on the writing assessment tool with Laura Allen and Scott Crosley. We're building a tool that will focus specifically on writing assessment. So now I'm going to turn my attention to intelligent tutoring systems, because what I've been doing for the last 20 years, basically, is building intelligent tutoring systems that use natural language processing in order to drive feedback. So expert human tutors provide interactive and adaptive scaffolding to support effective learning, as you know. And then what we do in intelligent tutoring systems is we are attempting to mimic or improve on human tutoring tactics to support learning. And consequently, they can be as effective as human tutors. In my work, I've been focusing on strategies to improve literacy, like reading and writing. So for that, we use natural language processing, and that's the analysis of language used by humans. And you use various statistical techniques in order to understand language and respond to the speaker appropriately. So natural language processing uses, the purpose is to build an algorithm that provides feedback to the user. And then the user is doing some task. The NLP provides feedback. And this is basically the intelligence of intelligent tutoring in the kinds of tutoring that I build. So the first one is iStart, and that's adaptive instruction and training for reading comprehension. And our focus is on helping readers to learn how to make inferences. They work on explaining text while using strategies like paraphrasing, comprehension monitoring, bridging inferences, elaborative inferences. We also have training on summarization and question asking. We have both regular and game-based practice with automated feedback for the quality of self-explanation. And what we found is that the games are particularly good in terms of enhancing enjoyment and engagement and persistence during practice. But the heart of the system is in this fact that the students produce language, and we're able to provide automated feedback about strategies so that they can improve their comprehension. So how is so iStart and language? How is iStart related to linguistics? Well, one part of it is that it improves comprehension. So it helps students to improve knowledge and application of self-explanation and comprehension strategies. Students also have a more positive attitude toward reading when they can understand challenging text. And interestingly, it improves comprehension for low knowledge readers as well as less skilled and more skilled readers. And in essence, it uses computational natural language algorithms to drive feedback. So this is a small picture of how we work the feedback, but essentially we iteratively test various hypotheses about their input and then provide feedback about that will drive them to learn how to use the strategies. So this is the next tutoring system that we've built. It's called the Writing Pal. It's a tutoring system that combines game-based strategy instruction with automated writing evaluation. It provides strategy instruction, and it focuses on 3 aspects of writing: pre-writing, when the students write their introduction, body, and conclusion. And it provides strategies for each one of these processes. Not just that you should do it, but how to do it and how to remember how to do it. In it, it provides animated lesson videos and educational games to practice the strategies related to writing. And it also provides, like iStart, student, teacher, and experimenter interfaces so that people can actually use it to run experiments so that you can manipulate various aspects of tutoring. So the Writing Pal, just a summary of its benefits. It increases performance on time prompt-based writing, increases knowledge of writing strategies, more positive attitude toward the writing process, just like iStart, and the games work to enhance enjoyment. So in some, students pretty much like using it and appreciate that they are learning how to write. One of the things about iStart is that they are able to practice writing essays, and then Writing Pal provides feedback on various aspects depending on how good the essay is. And so, for example, here the student has been provided a feedback on conclusion building. And how we do that is we have experts score a set of essays, and they're given a holistic score, and they're scored on 9 subscales. So this is an example rubric. And then we apply various computational linguistics tools to score and generate feedback on the student writing. So the computational linguistics are used on a subset of essays, and then they're applied on future essays so that the algorithms work to provide the feedback. And that way they can they are provided feedback within seconds and with fairly high accuracy in matching how a human would give feedback. So here we see that in essence, what the feedback does is it identifies the problem, and then it gives them a real resolution. So strategies on how they fix it, either in this essay or in a different essay. So in essence, feedback is provided on various levels. So we test for various things like legitimacy, length, relevance, structure, and then various parts in a linear sequence so that we give them the feedback that they need to either improve their essay here or in a future essay. So now I want to turn to a different topic, and that's how computational linguistics can provide signatures of individual abilities. So in essence, what we're doing and what we do in some of our research is that we take the linguistic features of a product that a student has written. So here we see the student wrote an essay. What we're going to do is we're not going to assess the quality of this product. What we want to do is assess from the linguistics the various individual differences about the student. So in this one example, we examined working memory and writing features. So for example, we built an algorithm using word frequency, logical connectives, and words before the main verb. So in essence, language sophistication, which in turn predicted working memory with an R-square of 0.46, which is quite large. So that's a large correlation and a large amount of variance. What that means is that working memory can be inferred by the language that a student is using. We've done that with various types of individual differences, such as vocabulary knowledge, their ability to make inferences, and even their affective states. So to sum up, basically, discourse involves a very complex cognitive and social skills and social processes, and we can use computational linguistics to examine the processes that integrate language across multiple levels. And that's why it provides the means to study how humans construct and represent meaning in the world. And also it provides the ability to build algorithms that can then predict what they're doing or how well they might do in the future, and then provide feedback. Not exactly like a human would, but as close as we can get. So before I end, I want to thank my lab, my research faculty and postdoctoral scholars, graduate students and research assistants who do so much of the work that I'm presenting today, as well as current collaborators on a couple of grants that I have. Very grateful and happy to work with them around the world. And before I end, I also want to plug my new journal, Technology, Mind, and Behavior. It's an APA journal that's open access. And so it publishes empirical, basic, and applied research on psychology and the dynamics of the interaction between humans and technology. I encourage you to please go look at it. It's open access, and so that means that you can read these articles anytime. So, summing up, thank you. Here's a plug to, if you want access to any of the papers that I talked about today. Here is the link to access WritingPal or iStart. And I want to give special thanks to my best friend, Marina. It's so great to see you. And there you go.
Well, Danielle, overwhelming as usual. Thank you very much. Okay, thanks a lot. I've got hundreds of questions, but let us please ask colleagues. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, students, colleagues, Yelena, you have a question?
Yes, good evening. Thank you very much, dear Danielle. I have one question connected with educational games. You know, here in Russia, educational games are not included into the process of secondary education. They are used as additional materials and not by all the teachers. What is the situation in your country, and if they are included into secondary education, which are the best?
Well, that's a really good question. First, I want to say that games do not improve learning. They improve engagement, and so there are various ways of outside of the world of technology of incorporating games that also incorporate the important pedagogy that that is needed for that particular skill or knowledge, and that's the most important thing. I want to stress that it's the theory behind the pedagogy that is the most important. If you put bad pedagogy in a game, it will have no effect. And so what are the most important games to include? be careful in terms of using games that focus too much on the gameplay and not what the students are supposed to be learning. Students do like games, and even games that are not $1 million games, just they like to change what they're doing and how they do it. One of the things about games is it allows you to teach information, teach strategies, teach content in different ways. And the more different ways that a student learns information, the better. And you can do that in games or outside of games. But, you know, games make people happy. And so engagement and enjoyment is important to learning. So we can't extract the importance of emotions from learning. But when we're learning, we can't forget about the pedagogy behind the particular tactic to learn the information. So that's not exactly a direct question, but something to think about when you're evaluating a game.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Questions? Okay, while you are thinking, may I ask a question, Danielle? So one of the things which I was very happy to hear is that it took you 10 years to develop Cometrix.
Of course.
So we are still toddlers. Okay, Valeria, are you here with me? So we are still toddlers. I hope that we will manage something decent as well. Yeah, but can you tell us about the corpus you were working on? So because you were speaking about different types of texts which actually generate questions, you probably have a corpus of ranked text as well, and then a corpus of essays. Yeah. So what else?
Oh gosh, I mean, I can't possibly even count the number of corpora that we've collected. The corpora is extremely important, of course. So, and when we started, our main corpus was TASA. And then we collected corpora from news, we scraped the web, we've used Wikipedia, we've used various other corpora. Right now in the world, I think that someone generates a different corpora every day. Like it's amazing. In some of my work, we're scraping the web for Twitter, for the news, for and of course, like you said, essays. So it's taken years to develop our corpora for essays, years. We just recently started a grant where it took 2 years to combine all the corpora and have them rescored by experts and using a new rubric. And we've done that with persuasive prompt-based essays, with source-based essays, with summaries, with questions, with we've also studied, developed corpora of students in online classes and looked at collaboration and as evidenced by discourse discussion board. We've looked at math classes and looked at how you can predict math performance as a function of linguistic sophistication in discussion boards. It's just, I mean, I could just keep going on and on about you know, each corpus is individualized to the particular question that you are asking. It's not that you can have one corpus and then extract all the information you need. One of the most important things I learned across my studies is that writing difficulty, text difficulty, how hard it is to understand something is completely orthogonal to writing quality. So like, for example, as you can see, I mean, I'm a big fan of Tolstoy, so you know that. I've read it 4 times in my life. And each time I extracted something completely different depending on how old I was. And that's completely evident when you actually extract the linguistics of Tolstoy. I'm sorry that the English version. And from that, you know, the example I showed was that the cohesion is very low, but if you just studied it, it would say it was a grade 4. So that's absurd. You know, that's just absurd. But the linguistic aspects show various things about it, which are not related. It's the quality of the writing, not the difficulty, that is important for War and Peace. That was particularly War and Peace. I'm not sure if I said that. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, and gave more questions actually. Yeah. Okay, now I do have more questions. So, but first, Tatiana Larina. Okay, your question, please. Professor Larina, Moscow.
Oh, you're muted, honey.
Yeah, microphone. Tatiana Victorovna, microphone.
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Thank you very much. First of all, I would like really to thank you for such a fascinating, inspiring talk. And actually, I always admire scholars who use computational tools, yeah, for the study of linguistics. It is beyond me, and that's why I'm really impressed by what you are doing. It's really very interesting. And as editor-in-chief of a journal in linguistics, I have a question which is like hypothetical. Yeah, could computational linguistics tools provide feedback on manuscripts submitted to journals? I mean, to facilitate the process of reviewing, because you talked on such tools which exist on Paul, writing a letter to Paul, yeah, but could it be applied to this quite difficult field?
Right. Well, let me tell you, not whether or not it could be done, but what would be needed in order to do it. So in order to build a feedback mechanism for manuscripts, first you would have to gather together for that journal. I would say it have to be specific for that journal. Each journal that I've worked on 5 now, or 6. And each journal is different. Each journal has different criteria and thresholds. And so building those thresholds and the kinds of things that are important for that journal would be different. So you'd have to build a corpus for each of the journals, and then provide feedback, or have a rubric for the feedback, so that the linguistics could be used, extracted from the article, and then drive each one of the criteria that you have. In the end, I would say that is probably not, it's not something I would do. But because, you know, the biggest thing that I think that it would be useful for would be desk rejects. So the lead editor is probably, big journals probably spends more time on desk rejects than anything else. And I think that there are various filters that could be used at that level to provide feedback on various things that an author needs to do before they could be considered for the journal. After that, that's why we sent it out to 3 reviewers, because 3 reviewers don't match. How often do 3 reviewers say the same thing? Or 4, or even 2. They just don't. And that's why we do it. And that's why we have lead editors who know the field and know what each person is doing. Like, oh, why did that person say no? It's because their criteria is really too low, or they're coming from a personalized aspect. They really are taking it personally. So you take that with a grain of salt. Or, oh, that person said accept because they, you know, are just a junior scholar. And you are the editor, you have to take into that into consideration. The most important thing about computational linguistics and algorithms is it can only be built if humans are reliable. So all 3 humans have to say the same thing. That means you know it can't be done. So only the filtering process would be possible. After that, because us humans, us experts, we're experts, we all have a different opinion. We're coming from a different perspective. It's almost impossible to model each perspective. Now, if I could model the human brain, the everything that one person knows, everything that another person knows, and everything that another person knows, and I could put that in my model, then we could do it. But we're not there yet.
Thank you very much. So hypothetically, it could be possible. It is not just my fantasy.
It could be possible if I could model different perspectives and use, for example, what we do is we build a semantic model. It's really kind of saying this is all the things that this person knows. And this is all the things that this person knows. And then we would drive that perspective. It would take a lot of corporate and a lot of benchmarking to do that. But I'm theoretically, yes, it's possible.
Thank you very much.
Any more questions, colleagues? Okay, maybe a very quick question from me again, Danielle. Okay, you were referring to this essays evaluator, yeah, and if I understood you correctly, you also said that you use it not to assess, not to actually mark the essays, but to see differences between writers. Yeah, like for individual, you were looking into individual differences. Okay, so what is the area of application of this particular tool? Yeah.
Super question. That's actually a project that we are doing right now. The objective is to build game-based assessments. So we're working on what's called stealth assessment. And so one of the things that we know is that students hate taking assessments, and sometimes they don't actually even apply themselves, and you don't get a true assessment of their abilities, and they take a long time. And what we're working on are assessments that have students type in language or make choices related to literacy, so that we can assess things like what I was talking about. So right now we're working on that. We've been working on it kind of as a side project for a while, but now we have full funding to find out how we can have students engage in various games like the ones we've built, and eventually a very immersive narrative where they are producing language, and then we will extract predictions on things like reading skill, prior knowledge, and lexical knowledge. So wow. That's the end game.
Yeah, wow. So we may expect some articles on this very soon.
Well, we've already published a few things just along the way, but yes, within the year you'll see some more papers on this and what we're doing. It's a 3-year project, so we're just started like a month ago, and but we've made a lot of progress. This is funded, and I have to say this, by the Office of Naval Research, so they've been very encouraging in our doing this work.
Yeah, I noticed that in your, what do we call this, grant givers, sponsors. Okay, yeah, I noticed. I was very much surprised. Okay, thank you very much, Danielle. Thank you. And before we close this team or this session, I suggest we make a common picture. All of us who are here in this assembly hall. So if Danielle, you stop demonstrating your screen and then your picture comes.
Oh, I thought I did.
No, you didn't. Okay. Ladies, moderators.
Not sure what to do.
And I would like everyone who is in the room with us switch on the cameras so that yeah, Professor Kussä, Yelena. Okay. So, Masha, can we help Danielle? Or is everything okay? I need more cameras.
That's what I was asking earlier, is I don't know how to change that.
Danielle, I wish I could answer you.
What? Are you talking to me?
There are some problems with connection because
you managed. Danielle, you managed. So now we can make a common picture, a picture of all of us together. Maybe a couple of pictures, yeah? Maria Nikolaevna, can you do this for us?
Yeah, good.
Okay.
Marina, am I showing up in your vision?
We can see you.
Okay.
Yeah, smiling.
Because I cannot see myself, so I don't know that if I'm there.
Oh, really?
No.
Oh, you look great.
Good.
Good.
Okay, thank you so much. So, were all cameras on? Masha, did you actually manage to take pictures?
Valerie.
Yeah.
Okay. So we will upload the pictures. Are we not? Are we planning to upload the pictures in that particular thread of this particular team? Is it possible, Masha, so that all those who participated will be able to download them? I think we will manage this. Yeah, I hope we'll manage this. Okay. And the last question to all presenters. So we do have the recordings of our session. Okay. So, and organizers of the conference of the summit are planning to have it online for people to watch it, for those who didn't manage today. Is it okay with you? Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm so because your microphones are off, so I cannot hear what you're saying.
Okay. It's okay from my side, Holger.
Thank you.
Marina Ivановna, it will be useful even for us to rewatch this session.
Well, I think that originally the idea was a little bit different, but because we received the permission, I hope that, I mean, my students, only like 4 students who are here in our plenary team, but I hope many of them will be interested in what was happening today. So that was actually the question, whether I can show it to my students. Okay? The permission is granted? Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, thank you very much. And actually the last remark. So in year 2023, Kazan Federal University is hosting a World Linguistic Congress. You're all very, very welcome. We will hopefully soon start distributing informational letters and circulars. Please come to us again, probably not online, not virtually, but to real Kazan, so that we would be able to show you our beautiful Kazan. You're very welcome. See you one day. Keep your
See you.
Thank
and
you so much.
Stay healthy. Bye-bye. Thank you very much.
Bye to all. Thank you.
Thank
Stay
you.
well.
Thank you.
Thank you.